And Coach, we're going to start with Gary Furman from Kane Sport. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett, how you doing today?
Hey, Gary.
It looked like you came out Saturday much more aggressive in how you were calling the game, and you had clearly defined playmakers, obviously your quarterback, but, Jalen Knighton as a run-pass threat and Charleston Rambo as a threat down the football field. Was that preconceived, or was that just a circumstance of how the game developed?
I think probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think, one thing that we've been able to do, at least over the last 3 weeks or so, because we've been able to kind of, other than Cam, avoid, more injuries. We've got continuity up front on the O-line. Obviously, Tyler, we're settling in with Tyler and learning what he is really comfortable with. And I think he's just getting more comfortable in general. And, we just kind of know who our guys are, what our identity is a little bit better. So it probably aids in us being able to, within the system, still get the ball maybe where it needs to go. And so I think that it's probably a combination of the two, but we definitely, I think, have a good feel for who our guys are, down the stretch.
Coach, we've got David Lake from 24/7 Sports. David, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, obviously Tyler's improved from week to week to week here in these ACC starts. I'm curious what phase, has impressed you most that he has taken significant steps in these 3 games here recently.
I think what was great last Saturday was he just, he started out well. He started out comfortable. He started out confident throwing the ball. The opening drive, I mean, he made a couple of really good throws, especially the touchdown throw to Rambo. So I think just the fact that it seems like things have at least slowed down both mentally and just maybe even emotionally, like when a game starts, the moment is not too big for him anymore, which is good because he played at the beginning of the game like he'd kind of finished the last 2 and was able to sustain that all game. I think also in the pocket, just he made a couple of really nice plays that aren't going to go on the stat sheet. Nobody's going to know. And it's just simple throwaways, not taking a sack, not forcing the ball down the field. A couple of times when maybe they covered it or protection was maybe breaking down to the point that he just got rid of the football. And I think those are little things that maybe, don't show up in the stat column or don't go notice, but are a big deal, because one in particular, I think we just gotten a first down off of a backed up drive and in the second quarter, I believe. And we tried to tempo and throw a little bit of a kind of a shot, but a concept down the right side, and they covered it well. And then they had a linebacker breaking free and he just threw it away over X's head out of bounds and became 2nd and 10. And to everybody else, it's like, okay, no big deal. We ended up converting that 2nd and 3rd down and moving the ball a little bit more that drive. And we don't do that if he either takes a sack or forces an interception. And so I think little things like that is where he's probably grown the most.
How hard is that line to toe for a young quarterback? Because he's clearly aggressive, right? He's not afraid to throw it downfield, but against NC State, he didn't really put the ball in harm's way at all.
Yeah, it's a fine line. Like I said, I think it just comes with time and experience and continuing to see, in those first 2 games, specifically against Virginia and North Carolina, where he did really well, but then also where he held the ball too long. Maybe we took a sack and he could have bailed us out and got rid of it, or he forced the ball like right before half against North Carolina. It's a fine line because you want to be aggressive, like you said. And the thing about NC State, after that opening drive, we hit him on the big 3rd down with Mike in one-on-one and hit him Rambo. They pretty much stopped playing man coverage. They pretty much said, we're not going to go one-on-one. That's really where we felt like we had the advantage, was on the outside. And they were really dropping 7 or 8 most of the night. And that's why, we didn't have as many explosives after that. We kind of had to slowly work the ball down the field. But for a young quarterback to not force the ball into that coverage, I thought showed a lot of growth.
Coach, we've got David Wilson from the Miami Herald next. David, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett. Tyler on Saturday, the one thing that kind of stood out is he seemed way more accurate, especially kind of from the start. And I know like some of that is probably, like you said, just like being ready to go, like the mental aspect of things. But I'm wondering, are there also like kind of tangible things you kind of see differently with him, whether, I don't know, it's mechanic, like he's more true to his mechanics or footwork, anything like that just kind of tangibly kind of looked better on Saturday than maybe it did in the first halves of the last couple of games?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's more with his feet. I mean, Tyler's a little bit of a 3/4, almost sidearm guy. And that's just his natural motion. And you're not going to change that. That's part of who he is. But I think he's noticed, and we've really talked a lot about, when he has a really good rhythm and tempo and depth to his initial drop, he's able to really get through his progressions nicely and be a lot more accurate. And so I think more of it's tied to his feet probably than the mechanics above the shoulder. And I think that goes hand in hand with him being really intentional about trying to work on that. And I think it also just is, it still goes back to the nerves. When you're calm at the beginning, your drops are right, your feet are right, everything goes together. And when you're not, maybe things shorten and get a little bit quicker. And that's sometimes where the inaccuracy comes. So I think it's a combination of those things.
Coach, we've got Kobe Price from the Sun Sentinel. Kobe, go ahead for Coach Lashlee.
Hey, Rhett. Seems like especially these, since Todd's taken over, he has a really great connection with Rambo. I guess, how have you seen that, that relationship between them grow? I know they've been obviously practicing with one another for, close to a year now or whatever, 10 months. But have you seen that grow? And I guess what's the next step for, that combo, that duo, as more teams, kind of key in on Rambo and learn about Tyler as a passer?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's just grown each week. I think there's a confidence level there. He has, obviously, that if he can get it near him, that he'll either make a play for him or fight to make a play. I was good the other night. I think Keyshawn had 4 catches. Will Mallory got involved. The way they were playing, we had a couple opportunities early to X, and Mike made a play early. The way they were playing their coverage after that first drive, it's hard to get the ball to the slots. So those guys probably didn't have as many opportunities as they normally do. But that's the good thing this year is, Rambo has kind of begun to establish himself as that go-to guy on the outside. But, if a team wants to roll their coverage and try to take him away, that's going to open up Mike Harley and Xavier and Keyshawn and Romello and Jacoby and the tight ends. And so I think Tyler has a great comfort level with Rambo, as you said, but I think he feels good about everybody. And, we were getting a lot of zone coverage after those first few drives the other night. It just, some of it, again, was by design, and some of it, that's just where the ball went to getting to Rambo.
Coach, we got a couple more for you. First, we'll go to Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett, congrats on the win.
Hey, man, thanks.
Wanted to ask you about the offensive line, just because it feels like, these guys have maybe turned a corner over the last couple of weeks. And I know earlier in the year, you guys were saying Jalen Rivers was maybe playing the best. Right now, in your own grading system, who has sort of been the most consistent guy out there for you week to week to week in the way you guys grade it?
That's a good question. You'd have to ask Aaron on the grades part,
okay,
how he grades it. But, I think the biggest thing that what you pointed is just, again, sometimes it doesn't matter who the 5 are. When they've played 3-4 now weeks in a row together, they get some continuity. And I think that's why you see them starting to settle in and play better. And, in the run game, we're better. We're not turning people loose in the passing game. Tyler's had good time, and we've done a nice job there. I think you got guys like Navon, and you got guys like Jared Williams who are just really veteran guys, played a lot of ball. But I think DJ Scape's playing a lot better at guard than he did last year. He was more comfortable at tackle. That's why we started the season that way when we had everybody healthy. But he's come in at guard and played a lot better, I think, than he did a year ago. I think Ja'Kai Clark is really starting to play well at center. He was real physical the other night. And so I think he's really starting to get comfortable now after 3 or 4 games at that position. And then I think, Zion's played a ball on the left side. So I don't know if there's one guy. I think they're all just playing really good, steady ball, but probably the one that would stand out the most would be Ja'Kai and DJ, just because Ja'Kai hadn't played a lot of center. I think he's starting to really play well, and DJ is playing much better at guard than he did a year ago, I think.
And then just my other one was on Will Mallory, because, I guess in the post-game interview, Tyler told QAM just that he had a talk with Will and said, forget screw everything, just go out there and kind of get your confidence back. And I guess from your perspective, do you see a different Will Mallory now after that game, having the touchdown, having the big catch on 3rd down, and maybe speak to just what that meant to have that conversation between him and TVD?
Yeah, I do feel like, we saw kind of Will Mallory that we're all used to on Saturday. The touchdown catch, he had a big catch in the opening drive. It was only about an 8 or 9 yard catch, but it was a really good play that got us into the 3rd and short to throw the touchdown. And then obviously the play to seal the game was huge. And, I didn't know about Tyler and Will's conversation, but that's good. The quarterback always having conversation with guys. I encourage those guys to do that, because if Tyler tells a guy something, it means a whole lot more than if I tell him something. But I think with Will in particular, you know, like we'd said earlier in the year, in those first 2 or 3 weeks, a lot of our older guys were pressing, you know, and he dropped that ball against Michigan State. And I think guys just, it's easy to, you know, kind of lose some of that confidence, like you said. I think Will's a great example of, he came back after that game, and really from Central Connecticut on through the last 3 weeks, we've seen that from Will in practice. He was humble. He worked as hard as he could. He worked on being a better blocker. He just worked on doing all the things that are boring and nobody cares about, the little things. And he just went to work. He didn't worry about catching balls. He didn't worry how many came his way. Y'all would ask me every week, are we trying to get the ball to Will more? And, you know, we weren't consciously pushing it to him because we just wanted him to work through this. And I think he's a great example of a guy who just came to work, did everything right over the last month. And it's funny how the ball finds those guys in those moments, and like the last play of the game, really. And I think just by him focusing on just being better at all the things he can be and not worrying about that, the ball's going to start finding him more and more. And I think he's playing at the level that we all know he's accustomed to playing at.
Coach, last hand up is Matt Shodell from Canesport. Matt, go ahead.
All right, last but not least. So Rhett, I wanted to get another update. I think you spoke last week about Jake Garcia. You know, I know he hopefully will return next month. And I think you said, you know, that if he had not been hurt, I think you'd said something like you might have split some reps and just sort of seen where things were. So I was curious, you know, with Tyler playing so well, like, is he the guy now when Jake comes back? Do you still split reps? You know, has this sort of maybe just how well Tyler's played put Jake a little bit on the back burner? Or I don't know, where do things stand if you can update that?
Yeah, I think Jake's week to week. We really don't know if we'll get him back this year or not. And so, you know, if he gets back in time to be available in a backup role towards the end of the year, that'd be great. I think, you know, Tyler over the last 3 games has shown great improvement each week. And like I said, I think he played lights out Saturday. I mean, statistically it says so, but he just seemed really in control and in command and seeing the field well, really from the first quarter through the fourth. And so I think Tyler's going to keep getting better and better. And hopefully offensively, we continue to kind of grow into this identity we have and keep getting better. And we'd love to get Jake back. The more depth we can get, the better. But right now, Tyler's our guy, and we're not looking back.